The Jaguars haven't started 4-1 since 2007, back when Trevor Lawrence was only 8 years old. To be blunt, the Jaguars have sucked, and in big games, they've sucked even worse. Just look back at the recent big games the Jaguars have had. Last year, on Monday Night Football, the Jags lost 47-10 to the Bills. The year before that, they lost at home on Monday Night Football to the Bengals in overtime against their backup quarterback. The Jags haven't had many games in the spotlight, but most of the chances they've had, they've fallen short completely. This was their first Monday night win since 2011. The Jaguars have only been to the playoffs 2 times since 2007, and they'd lost to the Chiefs the last 8 times they played going into this. The Jaguars are almost never good, and even when they are, they fall right back to the back of the pack soon after. Except it feels like this time is different. Players will come and go, but coaches are long-term, and the Jags seem to have found their guy. The improvements are massive, and it's still so early into year 1. The offense went from no motion to having a lot of motion, and play calling is much more complex and less predictable. Delay of games have been a real problem for Trevor because of how complex the system they run is, but the learning curve is worth it for the results it's getting. The blocking scheme took a terrible offensive line from last year and turned them into one of the best in the league with almost the exact same personnel. Devin Lloyd is a completely new player because defensive coordinator Anthony Campanile simplified his role so that his athletic ability could shine. The blitzes are well disguised and hard to predict, unlike old, extremely predictable Jags defenses of the past that rushed 6 guys directly into blockers. This team hasn't had a roster overhaul like fans thought they needed. It just looks like they did because the coaches have made the mediocre players of last year look unrecognizable. Even though the Chiefs had a 2-2 record coming into the game, they had been playing much better football the last 2 weeks. They still have many of the pieces that have won them Super Bowls before, and it was clear they weren't overlooking anyone in this pivotal point in their season, especially not the 3-1 Jaguars. And make no mistake, this wasn't a fluke. This was a hard-fought, high-level battle where Jacksonville went blow for blow with the league's most consistent powerhouse and found a way to win in the final seconds. The game, though, started out about as poorly as it possibly could have. Mahomes led the Chiefs to an early touchdown, and after the Jaguars got stood up at the goal line, Kansas City followed it up with a 97-yard drive to make it 14-0. It felt like deja vu, a familiar sinking feeling for Jaguars fans. Another big game slipping away. And when you realize that the Chiefs had won their last 23 games when leading by 14 or more, things felt even bleaker. Almost nobody believed Jacksonville had a shot at that point, except for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars themselves. Where previous Jaguars teams would have folded, this one didn't. Lawrence led them straight down the field, orchestrating a scoring drive that cut the deficit in half and injected life back into the team. The defense, led by Devin Lloyd and Josh Allen, started to stand tall, forcing multiple stops in a row on Mahomes and crew. By the third quarter, Jacksonville tied it up, and suddenly the energy in the stadium had completely flipped. Then came the play of the season. The Chiefs, known for closing out games, were driving again, methodically working downfield like they always do. But on a second down throw, Devin Lloyd jumped the route and took it 99 yards the other way for a pick 6. A linebacker with 4 interceptions in 5 games. It's almost unheard of. It was the kind of play that doesn't just change a game, it changes a team's belief. Jacksonville once again had the lead, but this is the Jaguars, right? Fans have seen this movie before. Get close, show flashes, and then find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And for a moment, it looked like that was exactly what was about to happen. A questionable interception with some contact that probably should have drawn a flag swung momentum right back to the Chiefs. Mahomes capitalized, tying the game late. You could almost hear the collective sigh in Jacksonville. Here we go again. Still, this team didn't quit. They went down the field and regained a 3-point lead. Unfortunately, the Jaguars' defense that's been dominant all season allowed the Chiefs to have a methodical touchdown drive to take the lead late. Down by 4 points with a minute 40 left, the Jaguars had one final chance. And if you're a longtime Jags fan, you've seen this before. A one-possession game, the ball in your quarterback's hands, the clock winding down. Whether it was Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Gardner Minshew, or Blake Bortles, it always ends the same way. A near miss, a heartbreak. But this year, something feels different. Just last week, when the 49ers started cutting into their lead, Jacksonville responded with big plays. Earlier this season, against the Texans, they gave up a late lead, then calmly drove back down for a game-winning touchdown. Every time this team has been tested, they've shown growth. Still, winning this kind of game on the biggest stage against a team with the Chiefs' cachet was something they hadn't done almost ever in the franchise's history. Trevor Lawrence started the drive cool and collected, hitting Brian Thomas Jr. on a perfect right sideline throw to get things rolling. Then as the pressure mounted, he threw another gorgeous ball on an out route to the left that was caught by De'Ami Brown. He went right back to Brian Thomas after that, drawing a crucial pass interference call in the red zone that set the ball up at the 1-yard line. No timeouts, the clock ticking, the season-defining play. They lined up in single back formation. The call looked like a play action, but as Trevor turned, he tripped. The stadium gasped. He fell again trying to recover. It was an absolute disaster unfolding in real time, one of those moments that would live forever in blooper reels. But then, somehow he got up. The offensive line somehow managed to hold their blocks long enough for Trevor to gather himself, take off running, and dive into the end zone. Touchdown, Jaguars. From worst play of the season to arguably the best in just a few seconds. It was somehow the most Jaguars play ever, and the least Jaguars result imaginable. This wasn't just another win. This was one of the biggest victories in Jacksonville history. Sure, they've had signature moments before. The 2017 playoff run, the 27-0 comeback against the Chargers in 2022. But something about this one felt different. This team isn't built on a fluke or a flash-in-the-pan roster. This is the same core that went 4-13 just last year, now being transformed by first-year head coach Liam Coen. Coen has completely reversed the losing culture that hung over the franchise. He's done what so many previous coaches failed to do, make Jacksonville believe again. He's brought accountability, energy, and modern offensive design. The players have bought in. To give you an idea of how resilient this team is, they've led for more time this year than any other team in the league going into this game. This team has been in the lead for almost the entire game every game. Even the Bengals game that they somehow managed to lose, they led the whole game until the last seconds. So they had hardly any experience being down, and that was their first time being down 2 possessions this season. To go down 2 possessions for the first time all year in that big game and respond like that is special. And while some will say this might not be the same unstoppable Chiefs team of old, this was still Mahomes and Andy Reid in a primetime spotlight. It was still the defending AFC dynasty. This was the type of test that separates good teams from real contenders, and the Jaguars passed it. This moment also represents something larger. The Jaguars' win mirrors the rise of the Detroit Lions, another once hopeless franchise that rebuilt itself from the ground up. Back in 2022, both teams finished 9-8 under new promising coaches. The Lions used that as a springboard to national respect. Jacksonville, on the other hand, stalled. Another 9-8 season, then a collapse to 4-13 the next year. Doug Peterson's Jaguars ran out of answers. Liam Coen's Jaguars are finding new ones. Coen's offensive philosophy has brought out the best in Trevor Lawrence. The offensive line is playing faster and more disciplined. The receivers, led by Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter, are finally being schemed open consistently, and the abysmal run game of last season has suddenly become one of the best in the league, with ETN toward the top of the league in rushing yards. In addition, their tight end play from Brenton Strange and Hunter Long has been good in the running and passing game. With all this firepower, they've still managed to struggle offensively, but more and more flashes of excellence have been showing each week as they've learned the new system better. The penalties and drops, as well as occasional mistakes from Trevor, have held back what could be a huge breakthrough on an already really good team. Defensively, Devin Lloyd has developed into one of the most dynamic linebackers in the league and has jumped into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Josh Allen is quietly having an all-pro caliber season, and the secondary looks more aggressive and opportunistic than ever. In addition, they pulled this win out without one of their star players in Trayvon Walker. Trayvon has been invaluable to the defense with his contribution of pass rush and run stopping ability. Not having him play was noticeably affecting their defense, but they still managed to make big defensive plays anyway. This isn't a team relying on luck or one hot streak. This is a legitimate contender finding its identity with a great defense and an emerging offense. Quick timeout. If you're enjoying this breakdown and want more deep dives like this every week, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and it guarantees you won't miss the next one. Back to the video. Now the question becomes, can they sustain it? Can they build on this win and keep the momentum alive through the long grind of an NFL season? The AFC has plenty of good teams, but Jacksonville has shown they can go toe-to-toe with anyone. For the first time in years, the Jaguars are tied for first in the AFC with the Bills and Colts. That's not a typo. The Colts and Jaguars, two teams that were left for dead a year ago, and now at the top of the conference standings. This may be the turning point, the moment that future documentaries look back on and say, that's when it started. Because what we're seeing right now isn't the same old Jaguars. It's not the team that folds under pressure, not the one that's cursed to repeat history. This team fights. This team adapts. This team finishes. Will the Jaguars maintain this energy all season? Will Trevor Lawrence finally ascend to the elite tier of quarterbacks and lead this team to heights their franchise has never reached? We don't have those answers yet, but one thing is certain. This isn't the Jacksonville Jaguars of the past. This team is confident, they're resilient, and most importantly, they believe. For the first time in a long time, the Jaguars aren't the punchline, they're the story.